Hello, everyone, and welcome to Accessible Tech Thursdays. Today, we're covering literacy tools with myself, Neil Beck, and we're joined with Erica Smith. Hi, Erica.
Hi
And
everyone.
we've also got a guest, Andrew, coming later on talking about Clicker. So, literacy tools is something that has quite a good crossover with lots of the other subjects that we've spoken about, but there were just some extra tools and useful things that we thought would be useful to cover as we went along. So it works quite well with some other elements. So if we look at the text to speech element of the course, where we're having learners that can have text read out to them from their screen, that's a useful literacy tool, but we have that specifically covered there. And I'd say the same for visual learning. There we cover a tool of mind mapping, and with mind mapping you can export the mind map into an essay plan, a lesson plan. So that's another really useful one to consider if you're looking at literacy tools. We also cover a wide range of subjects there, and if you follow that link, it will guide you to that PDF that's interactive and laid out nice and clearly. So it's a really good little guide. We'll probably look at having that as a physical copy at some point as well, so you can use that. So I'm going to start off with Claro Writing Helper. It's actually a recently developed tool that is really useful for learners and breaks down the stages of actually writing an essay. It's something that I wish I'd had when I was at school. I was absolutely terrible at writing essays, so I wish I'd had this. So it means you can review, you can structure, you can brainstorm the essay question. It gives you writing tasks, so you can kind of chunk and focus on certain elements. Reminders, you can actually process and use the links to sources, so you can manage the citations and the bibliographies. You can preview the essay as a Word document, so learners will actually know what it's going to look like when it's finished. You can do a health check on it and then fix any issues that are laid up there. You can then publish to Word with complete navigation and full bibliography. And I don't know if you're like me, but with essays, I'd kind of get to the end and my brain would be oozing out my ears, and then I'd have to do the bibliography because I hadn't done it as I'd gone along. So I think it's a really useful tool, and I think there's a gap there that's maybe not filled. There's not many kind of competitors, kind of products I can say, oh, instead of using Claro Writing Helper, use this. So I think it's quite an innovative product. So I'm going to play the video for you now.
Our intuitive, simple software takes the stress out of essay writing by giving you 7 clear, easy-to-follow steps that help you organise your thinking, develop the flow, review sources, and produce great essay content. In this quick guide, we will take you through the 7 stages of Claro Writing Helper's essay writing process. The first stage in the process is straightforward. Enter basic details about your essay, like the title, the word count, and referencing style and deadline. It's normal at the start of writing an essay to worry about references, word count, and organising what your document will look like. This can be very stressful, even overwhelming. Claro Writing Helper's second stage removes all this noise and lets you focus only on the essay question. Here, you can centre your attention on what the essay brief is and what you are being asked to do. Don't worry about things like layout, research and references just yet. The third stage in the Claro Writing Helper process is to create an outline structure, now that you have an idea, from stage 2, of how you will go about answering the question. This third stage is where you can arrange the essay's elements from beginning to end. Stage 4 lets you research and capture information to help your essay tell its story. Claro Writing Helper opens websites, Word documents, images and PDFs. find and capture key information in these sources using highlighters that match your essay sections. You can even define your bibliography here to make your referencing less time-consuming and to remove stress. Once you're happy with a snippet, you can move it into your essay, where it will slot into the structure you've already defined in Stage 3. Stage 5 lets you organise all the snippets into your essay. Like sorting a card deck, drag and drop snippets through your essay structure. You can reword snippets and add custom snippets to tie your essay together. With your essay coming together, Stage 6 lets you review what your essay looks like so far and fix any outstanding tasks or issues. The 7th and final step in the Claro Writing Helper process is to publish your essay to Word. You can see an essay health check with pointers on how it can be improved, unchecked tasks, snippets that aren't yet in your own words, whether you have missed your word count and more. Claro Writing Helper will produce a perfectly formatted and referenced Word document for you. This video is a quick start guide to the 7 stages in the Claro Writing Helper process, but our support is always just a click, an email or a call away. For any further information, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And thanks for choosing Claro Writing Helper to take the stress out of essay writing.
Okay, and there we have it. So that's Claro Writing Helper, and I'd be really interested to see what you think of that. It's one of those tools that I think will help lots of students, but in particular has real benefits for learners with special educational needs. And it covers things like making sure that you're writing things in your own words, which is a really useful tool. And I think a lot of teachers will find that really useful to use, and make sure that learners are focusing on their own ideas. But I think the fact that it's broken into kind of step-by-step guides is, yeah, really useful for lots of different learners. I've put some resources in the slides, so I'll make sure that these are sent out. There's a user guide, there's release notes, there's how-to videos and support articles. I think that's the one thing that stood out for me with this tool, is that it's not just going to be a tool that you give to a learner and they use it. I think you're going to need to teach them how to use it to begin with, and do a bit of hand holding until they get used to it. So it's definitely worth thinking about the support you put in place for the learners with this. So we're going to talk a little bit about Clicker. I'm not going to talk for long about this because we're lucky enough to have a speaker with us. But Clicker is available on Windows, Mac, iPad, Chromebook. It is a paid product, but it does have free trials that are really good to make use of. It's a literacy tool to support learners of all abilities. And there are written grids like the one in the picture there, with some different vocabulary that you can insert into a document. And as you can see, there's symbol support there, well, pictures and symbol support there. And some of the things that we've really highlighted in the webinars, so dictation, prediction, text-to-speech, are all involved in this. And there's also clicker boards, which is a mind mapping tool to link back to what we were talking about earlier. So what I'm going to do is we've got a short video from Clicker, and then I'm going to hand over to Andrew to talk a little bit more about it.
Clicker provides the right level of writing support for all your learners. Beginning writers build sentences with whole words. Each finished sentence is automatically read aloud, so they review what they've written.
Mary and Billy rode their bikes.
And if there's a word they can't read, they listen to it first.
Flew.
Now they're ready to start choosing the words they want to use. Students progress to writing with the keyboard, with support from the talking predictor and word banks for topic vocabulary. Create your own set of clicker grids in just a few seconds, or use one of the hundreds of ready-made ones from our curriculum team. There's something for almost every topic at every level. To motivate your students and transform writing in your classroom, start using Clicker now. Find out more at cricksoft.com.
Okay, there we go. So that was a short video on Clicker, and what we'll do with all these videos is make sure that they're in the shared folder, so you can view these. And I'll hand over to Andrew now to talk a little bit more about Clicker.
Thank you very much for that, Neil. So what you've all seen in that little video clip there is just a small snippet of what Clicker has to offer. As you mentioned before, we have a built-in mind mapping tool, we have a matching activity as well, and even a talking activity designed for developing speaking confidence. You can make all of these from scratch, but we do have an area called Learning Grids, providing access to a wide range of pre-made cross-curricular activities as well. I think at the moment we've got over 2,400, and it's constantly updated every 3 to 6 weeks as well. A new tool to Clicker 8 is analytics as well. So once a piece of work has been produced, you can click on this analytics button, and it will essentially show you how that piece of work has been produced, what spelling corrections have been made, what grids have been used, and if anything's been copy and pasted as well. And alongside Clicker 8, we have also brought out a brand new app as well called the Clicker Writer app, which is available on iPads and Chromebooks. So kind of lots of uses for Clicker, for a range of abilities, pupils, and potentially throughout the whole school as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. We're going to bring Erica in a moment just to talk about her use of Clicker. But before we do, I was just going to ask, is there if someone's looking at Clicker and seeing all the different things you can do with it, where would you recommend starting? What would be a good place to start?
So first of all, the schools I work with, I recommend that they book in a one-to-one meeting. That can be done just through our homepage, and it will be with me as well. So my name's Andrew Cumming. At that one-to-one meeting, we just have a chat about Clicker, how it can meet the needs of your school, look at license options, and then if we think it will be beneficial, then I know you mentioned at the start, Neil, about like a trial. So we can set you up with that trial, see if it's going to offer the right support for your pupils, and then we just go from there, and just have a chat about it.
Great. And I understand that the Clicker Writer is probably something, if you're thinking that maybe some of the Clicker grids and things like that maybe might not be age appropriate for kind of older learners, that's a good kind of halfway house or a step towards. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Clicker Writer app encompasses 3 like key components to Clicker. So that's sentence sets, connect sets, and word banks, the 3 that we saw in that video actually. A lot of schools use it for younger learners because of the way that they would access technology, and touchscreen is better than a mouse and a keyboard. But it's pretty much just how schools just envision using Clicker really, and it's all just about exploring the software. That's what I say. It's explore the software, see what you can use, and then just have a look at it in more detail.
Great. Well, thanks for providing the video, and thanks for coming on and chatting to us for a bit.
Very much that.
It's been really good to have you along, and if anyone's interested, feel free to get in touch with us, and we'll get you Andrew's details, and arrange it further. Erica, how have you found using Clicker?
Well, we've used Clicker for a long time at High Furlong. What I like about it is it's a literacy tool that can be used by students with a variety of cognitive levels and access. So obviously it's eye gaze accessible, it's switch accessible, which obviously we've covered in our previous webinars. I like the fact that it can be used from our reception all the way through to Key Stage 5, depending on the ability of the learners. With some of the new features in Clicker 8, which obviously that you can't show everything in that short video, but there's the options to hide some of the icons on the top of the document. So if you were teaching those skills in computing, such as, you know, how to print or how to save, you can hide all the other icons, because obviously if you're doing it on word processing, there's quite a lot and it can be quite distracting. I like the fact that you can hide and then teach those skills and then reintroduce some of those buttons. I think that's a really good feature, and something that we have planned out in school is that actually we will teach word processing through Clicker for our primary students, and then introduce them into kind of word processing using Microsoft Word as they get into the secondary, obviously depending on ability levels. I also like the fact that it is accessible in terms of for your pre-readers and writers. You know, there's the matching sets and there's the customized, so you could be matching pictures to pictures or pictures to words, or moving to kind of word to words. I've done quite a lot of matching around Oxford literacy, Oxford reading tree characters, you know, those kind of things, and progressing onwards. I like the mind mapping tool on the new Clicker 8, because I think of those whole, when you have like introducing that new topic and you have your kind of thought showers at the beginning, when you're introducing all that vocabulary, I like the fact that then you can put that into a word bank, so that actually then it can encourage that independent writing. And also the fact that if some of our students are using symbol software, which again we've talked about in previous sessions, there is now not only the picture element there, but there's also PCS symbol add-on. So if anyone's using Boardmaker like we use in school, rather than introducing a second symbol set, which we've talked again about how learning a symbol set is like learning a language, I like the fact that there's that add-on, which is what we purchase in school, which we've never had before. You've had to teach them that, you know, a cup looks like this in Boardmaker, but then when you go into Clicker, there's something different. So actually, I think it's more consistent now. So I think it's great. And then the app is brilliant, because obviously with our remote learning, it means that teachers can create sentence sets and word banks and send them to that app. So I think that's really useful, especially in this climate at the moment.
Great, thanks, Erica. That's really useful information, especially on remote learning and how it ties into that. I think that's a question that a lot of people would have been asking. Great, thanks. And I think it's another one of those tools that is you do need to think about the training of staff and also students, and getting them used to it as well. It does involve, yeah, it isn't just one of those pieces of software you buy and then it just runs in the background. It's actually hands-on. The fact that it actually includes the guides there as well for it, resources and things like that, that's an all-in-one. You don't have a piece of software and then go get the guides, the resources somewhere else. It's built in.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know the teachers that I've worked with, once they build a resource, they share it in the school. And you'll always get some people who are better with technology and they'll be really good at creating resources. And there's no reason why they can't create templates and things that will work for other subjects. So I think I've always liked that ability to be able to customize, but it does involve a bit more focus sometimes.
And I think for those people who aren't as confident in customizing, there's so many, I mean, there are thousands of pre-made learning grids now, which I think they're updated something like every 2 weeks, I'm sure Andrew said. So they are, you know, they're constantly being added to, and you can put a filter on them. So actually, if you're looking for just sentence sets or just word banks, you can filter so that they're just the results you see. Or if you've got a student that prefers the books or matching, you know, you can, I think that's quite a nice little feature as well. So
yeah, great stuff.
Great.
Thanks, Erica. So I've added some extra resources to help you with Clicker there. There's a website index for help, which is a very complete guide for the help. There's a how-to guide, and there are 90-second training guides, which are nice little snippets just to get you going. I don't know about you, but I quite like those short videos as a way to get me into something, so they're quite useful. We can talk a little bit about Grammarly. So this is a tool that I've tested for myself, and just over a number of weeks, and then once I'd kind of got to grips with it, tried it with some learners as well, and I found it very good. Just as a warning, if you ever type in Grammarly, you will get Grammarly adverts for the rest of your life, I think. I'm constantly, whenever I go onto YouTube or something like that, you'd get a lot of adverts. But that aside, it's a really useful tool. There are free and premium versions. It's available on many different platforms, and I've got those on the next slide, so I'll go through that a bit. And it checks your spelling, your grammar, and your punctuation as you type. And it probably goes a little bit further than tools like Microsoft Word does. And the advantage of it is it's available in lots of different windows and lots of different applications on lots of different platforms. You can review documents as well if you don't want it to do it as you go along, or you want to do both. You can input documents and it will give you some pointers and some tips. We'd like to remain quite neutral on products because we want people to understand that it isn't a product that makes the technology good. It's the complete package around it and the support for the learner. So I wanted to include an alternative here. So Pro Writing Aid, it is an alternative to Grammarly, but it isn't available on as many platforms. So it's more of a Windows-based tool. And the free version doesn't include as much, but the paid version does include more and is a little bit cheaper than Grammarly. So it's worth being, I'd probably go with Grammarly to begin with, just because the freebies are so good and what's built in is good. But then if that's a really useful tool as time goes on, I'd consider looking at Pro Writing Aid, because there are advantages and disadvantages to both. So it is available in MS Word, Microsoft Outlook, Google Chrome, Windows. So that's all of Windows, it's just built in, iOS and Android as well. And I've just put a picture on there that just compares what you get for free and what you get for premium. So spelling, grammar and punctuation is available in the free, and then for the premium you get that with things like tone adjustments, inclusive language. And I think inclusive language is one of those ones that might be really good for organizations to use as well, because then you're starting to consider the way that you're describing things. Helps you with word choice, the formality level, so not using kind of slang and things like that, fluency, and some additional advanced suggestions. So yeah, handy tool, and can work in, I think I started with it as a Chrome browser extension, and then it works in things like Facebook. So you can imagine learners, that's a really good way in to get them using a new tool, is to do it with something that they can see the benefit to. So then their Facebook comments or their messages to friends, they can actually be understood better. And I think that communication is really important. So it's definitely worth a look. Wanted to just touch on, I know we've covered Microsoft Immersive Reader in text-to-speech, for example, but there are some specific tools in Immersive Reader that are also quite useful when we're talking about literacy. So Picture Dictionary is one that's built in, so when you're clicking on a word and the symbol is coming up for it, that's really useful and helps to embed the word with the picture. You can also go to the there's some kind of language options. It's the central tab of the three there, and there you can turn syllables on and off, so you can break things down into syllables. You can highlight the parts of speech, so nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and it's part of a larger packet of support. So you also get the screen reader, changing the text size, changing the color of the background, translation, and lots of different other tools. So this is a very different tool than, say, Clicker, or than Claro Writing Helper. Those are very specific tools for a task, or to completely change the way that you work and deliver, whereas this is something that's just built into default software. So if you want a custom tool, then I'd say go for kind of Clicker, go for Claro Writing Helper. But if you're already using Microsoft and you're looking for some additional inbuilt tools, then this is really useful. Yeah, I just wanted to make that point, because Immersive Reader isn't going to replace these specialist tools for learners on a lot of fronts. I've put in some extra resources that I hope you'll find useful. We've got some different spelling apps. I know phonics is something that comes up quite often, so I've ensured that we've got some different games, apps and websites linked there. The Assistive Technology, Accessible Tech Thursdays webinar on text-to-speech is a really useful one, as we said. As Twinkle resources, that's a commonly used one. I know there's a lot of different resources out there, but I just wanted to include something on that. And touch typing games as well, as the picture on the right shows. There's a spaceship game where you can shoot asteroids by typing, and there's lots of little fun, silly little games like that that just make touch typing a bit more fun to do. So we're coming to the end of the webinar. If you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and we'll leave the room open a few minutes afterwards just to answer those questions. So we've covered literacy tools this week. Next week, I'll be covering accessible documents. That's the 25th of February. On the 4th of March, we'll have a parents and carers webinar. And on the 11th of March, I'll be covering the tech ability standards. And we'll have a drop-in at the end of that session as well. So thank you to everyone that's attended today. Thank you to our guests of Andrew, and thanks Erica for all your work in putting this together as well. If you've been interested in anything that you've heard today and you want to have more information, or you want to have more intensive support, then you can contact us at edtech-demonstrator.lgfl.net. There's lots of resources there, and you can be linked to a school or college that can help you more in depth with this. I've also included our links along the right hand side there for YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn and Facebook. And this webinar will be uploaded to YouTube so you can view it. So yeah, thank you everyone. And I'll leave the chat open for a few minutes in case there's any questions.